I expect to be asked in some detail about my views of the work of a good judge on a high court bench.
Hello, I'm Jenna Lynn Roberts with Present Path Tarot, and today we are memorializing Ruth Bader Ginsburg by listening to her quotes to capture the concept of the archetype of justice that's in the Justice card. But really, the archetype of justice is, of course, something that travels throughout all societies everywhere. And in the card itself, we have a person sitting with a sword in one hand to cut through to the truth of things, and a scale on the other to capture balance. It's a card of balance as well, and I think that Ruth Bader Ginsburg does an amazing job in her life of honoring listening to both sides so that she can get a full perspective of the best possible judgment to make, and also of honoring those who are minimized in society and seeing the Constitution as something that should be representing all people. So please listen today to her words and consider how they can reflect in your own life and how you yourself can become a better person simply by learning from Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
I hope people will think of me as a good judge who tried with whatever ability I have to interpret the law wisely and to keep it in tune with the people that law exists or should exist to serve.
Men and women are persons of equal dignity, and they should count equally before the law.
You won't settle for putting Susan B. Anthony on the new dollar.
When they would say things like this, how did you respond?
Well, never in anger, as my mother told me. That would have been self-defeating. Always as an opportunity to teach. I did see myself as kind of a kindergarten teacher in those days because the judges didn't think sex discrimination existed. Well, one of the things I tried to plant in their minds was think about how you would like the world to be for your daughters and granddaughters.
Justice Ginsburg considered herself to be a teacher, both by listening to others, being the best student she could by learning the most she could be for any case being brought before her, as well as giving other perspectives to people who might not have a full point of view. I think this is a huge part of the Justice card, is being able to both learn and teach and share points of view that may not even be yours.
For many years of my life, 17 years, I was a teacher. I was a law school teacher. And that's how I regard my role here with my colleagues who haven't had the experience of growing up female and don't fully appreciate the arbitrary barriers that have been put in women's way.
One of the things that I've done every other year with my law clerks, more often if they are so inclined, is we visit the local jail, the DC jail, Lawton Penitentiary, which is the nearest penitentiary. I do that to expose myself to those conditions, and also for my law clerks, who most of them will go on to practice in large law firms and corporate business and won't see the law as it affects most people.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg captures the Justice card in part because it's how she treated her own life. She saw certain periods of her life as balancing others, and she even said, so often in life, things that you regard as an impediment turn out to be a great good fortune. So I hope today you can consider how some of the impediments in your own life might turn out to be a blessing.
And my dear colleague, Sandra Day O'Connor, put that very well. She said, if Ruth and I came of age at a time when there was no discrimination against women, we would be retired partners in a major law firm.
One of my favorite things about Ruth Bader Ginsburg is that she reached across the differences to become best friends with Justice Scalia, who died in 2016. And one of her quotes, she says, "From our years together at the D.C. Circuit, we were best buddies. We disagreed now and then, but when I wrote for the court and received a Scalia dissent, the opinion ultimately released was notably better than my initial circulation. Justice Scalia nailed all the weak spots, the applesauce and argle-bargle, and gave me just what I needed to strengthen the majority opinion. So I love that these two people would actually share notes with each other, even when they disagreed, to help each other be better in how they presented their arguments. And I think that is a true sign of justice and fairness.
People can disagree strongly and are willing to display those disagreements in public and yet work together every day, do the best job that they can. It was a great man once said that the true symbol of the United States is not the bald eagle, it is the pendulum. And when the pendulum swings too far in one direction, it will go back. Some terrible things have happened in the United States, but one can only hope that we learn from those bad things. So yes, we are not experiencing the best of times, but there's reason to hope that we will see a better day.
What is it about the current climate that most concerns you?
Our legislature, which is the first branch of government, is right now not functioning. But I can think back to 1993, the year that President Clinton nominated me for a vacancy on the Supreme Court. I had spent 10 years of my life litigating gender discrimination cases. I was one of 4 general counsel to the American Civil Liberties Union. And yet, the vote to confirm me was 96-3. No one raised a question about my affiliation with the American Civil Liberties Union. That kind of rapport doesn't exist now. But my dream is that we will get back to it. One day, I think it will take strong people from both parties to say, let's get together and work for the good of the country. We tend to take cases only when other judges have disagreed on what the federal law is, whether a statute or constitutional provision. And even so, and I know the focus is often on 5-4 splits, but we are unanimous, at least in the bottom line judgment, in about 40% of the cases. I think that's a pretty good record. And if people would look at some of the unusual lineups in the cases that don't make the big headlines, you will see that this is this court does not operate like the Congress does. You know probably about an opera that will have its world premiere on July 11th in Castleton, Virginia. The opera is called Scalia Ginsburg. And it's about 2 people who have different views on constitutional interpretation. And we have arias expressing our views. But the last duet is, we are different, we are one. That is, different in the way we interpret the Constitution, one in our reverence for the institution we serve. And both of us are deeply committed to this court and its place in our democracy.
Today I'm choosing to wear my dissent collar. That is a necklace that I feel looks the most like the one that she wore when she was dissenting. And in her view, dissent was a beautiful gift of America. And here's a few quotes of her sharing her views on how we dissent well.
I will announce a dissent from the bench if I think that the court not only got it wrong, but egregiously wrong. But there has been a tradition in the United States of dissents becoming the law of the land. You're writing for a future age, and your hope is that with time, the court will see it the way you do. The genius of the United States is that over now the course of more than 2 centuries, the notion of we the people has become ever larger, so that people who were once left out, like women, like African Americans, like Native Americans, are now part of that we the people. So I see the Constitution as striving for a more perfect union. And the framers included, particularly in the Bill of Rights, some grandly general clauses, like the equal protection of the laws. No state shall deny to any person the equal protection of the laws. All people are entitled to due process of law. So the progress is slow, but it's definitely headed in the right direction. What is the reason that it isn't more rapid? One factor that I think plays a large part is what I call unconscious bias. And my best example of that is the symphony orchestra. When I was growing up, you never saw a woman in a symphony orchestra except maybe playing the harp. Someone came up with a simple device. Let's drop a curtain between the people who are auditioning and the people who are making the selections. And with that simple device, literally overnight, symphony orchestras changed. People who swore that they could tell the difference between a woman's playing and a man's playing. Famous critic for the New York Times, Howard Taubman, said, blindfold me and I can tell you if it's a woman playing the piano or a man. Well, they gave him the dropped curtain test and he failed miserably. He got all mixed up. So that was an example of, there was no deliberate effort to keep out women, but there was a certain mindset that a woman would not be as good as a man. It's unfortunate that we can't duplicate the...
Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a shameless feminist, and she helped us obtain some incredible strides forward. The following things are things that she helped us get without a male cosigner. We can obtain a mortgage, open a checking account, start a business, get a credit card, get a business loan, get a job without gender-based discrimination, and keep that job while pregnant or without being forced to show proof of sterilization. We also are able to get pension benefits and equal consideration to be executors of our children's estates, and most importantly to me, we're able to obtain birth control without our husband's permission. These are incredible things, and the following quotes are ones that capture some of her feminist points of view.
When would you be satisfied with the number of women on the court? When there are 9. For most of the country's history, they were all white men. If the woman has the means to go to a neighboring state, if she can buy a plane ticket or a bus ticket and afford the cost of the procedure, she's safe. And she and her daughters will always have the choice. The people who don't have the choice are poor women, and that, frankly, doesn't make any sense as national policy. So women were very much concerned about this question in the 70s. But now that it's safe for women of means, we don't see, I think, the same effort put forth to protect all women to protect women who can't afford the procedure on their own.
I tried yesterday to trace the difference between racial distinctions, Jim Crow laws, which were not obscure in the message that one race was regarded as inferior to the other, with gender classifications that were always rationalized as favors to women. And so my position was constantly, these classifications must be rethought. Are they genuinely favorable, or are they indications of stereotypical thinking about the way women or men are? A system of justice will be the richer for diversity of background and experience. It will be the poorer in terms of appreciating what is at stake and the impact of its judgments if all of its members are cast from the same mold.
So the effort was to treat people as people and to treat workers as workers, not male workers who are treated as the breadwinner who counts, and female workers who are a lesser breed.
I have had the great good fortune to share life with a partner truly extraordinary for his generation, a man who believed at age 18 when we met that a woman's work, whether at home or on the job, is as important as a man's.
Her mother's influence has been enduring.
She said two things: be a lady, be independent. Be a lady meant don't give way to emotions that sap your energy, like anger. Take a deep breath and speak calmly.
I want to share this quote that has been ringing through my mind this last few days as I've been frustrated with things that are happening politically, and I hope that it might affect you as well. I couldn't find a clip of it. She says, "When a thoughtless or unkind word is spoken, best tune out. Reacting in anger or annoyance will not advance one's ability to persuade." Easier said than done, Ruth, but thanks for the tip.
If you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself, something to make life a little better for people less fortunate than you. A meaningful life is one lives not just for oneself, but for one's community.
For Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the justice archetype was not just about how we judge things, but how we are perceived by others in our actions. One of her best quotes is, "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." I hope you can consider today how you'd like to be a leader reflecting the qualities of Justice Ginsburg. Thank you.
I said, yes, I've heard of the notorious B.I.G.
Yes, right, big.
And it seems altogether natural because we have one very important thing in common, notorious B.I.G.
Would you?
and me. We were both born and bred in Brooklyn, New York.
All right.